You all are not going to believe me when I say this, but I have never sat down and played a full Road to Glory. I've always preferred Dynasty mode, but today I decided I'm going to give it a shot. So I went into Road to Glory to create myself, and I decided I wanted to be a quarterback, and we had to rep my favorite high school team, Bishop Sycamore. Throughout my whole career, I wanted to accomplish these 5 things: be a 5-star recruit, win a high school championship, win a conference championship, win a national championship, and win the Heisman. And to do all that, I felt like my best chance at achieving all these goals was playing for a team in the Conference of Champions, at least before it falls apart. For my top 3 schools, I randomly selected 3 Pac-12 schools, and I got Oregon State, Arizona State, and Arizona. Unless I got other offers, I was most likely going to end up at one of these 3 Pac-12 schools. Anyway, my first game was against Norfolk Senior High, and I started off hot with this touchdown to Craig Ostrander. I had never played on this camera angle before, so it was a little weird, but I was figuring it out as I went along. And right before halftime, we had a large lead, but while trying to extend it, I threw my first interception of my career. It didn't matter though, we ended up winning 44-0, and I finished my first game with 341 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. In week 2, Sylvania High took an early 7-0 lead on us, and in response, I threw this touchdown to Craig. Near the end of the second quarter, we were in a tight game, but I tested out my arm strength, and once again, Craig Ostrander was able to deliver for us. Then, a minute later, we got the ball back, and I threw this dot. And those 2 touchdowns ended up helping us take control of the game and win in the end. Additionally, I was now a 2-star recruit. I added Miami, Ohio to my college choices. And week 3, we were taking on Athens High School. I ended up getting us on the board early with this 30-yard touchdown. That's a dot. And we were never able to break away, but we led throughout the whole game, and that was enough to make us 3-0 on the year. I had 3 total touchdowns in our win, and that was enough to get me my first scholarship offers from Western Kentucky and Miami, Ohio. Week 4 against Norton High School, I figured out I could audible. I thought I had to run exactly what coach said, but it turns out I didn't. Anyway, after figuring that out, we scored an easy touchdown to Bill Wilson, and I was playing pretty well until I threw this jump ball up. That did stop our momentum for a little bit, but by the second half, all was well as I continued our domination with this dot, and on this play, I threw my 6th touchdown of the game. 401 yards and 6 touchdowns were both a new career high for me, and it put me on the map. I was now a 3-star quarterback. In fact, I played so well that all of my top schools were offering me a scholarship already. However, our week 5 game against undefeated Avon Lake Senior High was looking to be a tough one. Early in the second quarter, we were able to take a lead on this play, but then they answered back, so we took the lead back midway through the third, and as time was expiring at the end of the quarter, I threw another dot, and we took a 2-touchdown lead on Avon Lake. They wouldn't go away, but after running the ball down their throat, we sealed the game, and I had played another great game. Because of this, I finally got the attention I deserved, becoming a 4-star quarterback. Even Notre Dame offered me a scholarship, and I now had a scholarship to 8 different schools. But we had to keep our goals in sight. We wanted to win a state championship this season and become a 5-star recruit. So we had to continue our success in week 6 when we took on 2-3 Painesville High. After our defense somehow got a safety on the first play, I went down and I threw a dot to Alex Howe, which he dropped, but they gave us the touchdown anyway. However, late in the third, we found ourselves down 1, and to make matters worse, I threw an awful interception. Afterwards, on the next drive, I stepped up and I led us down the field to take a lead. But on the 2-point conversion, I made the read a second too late. It didn't matter though, because in the end, this throw in the tightest of windows iced the game for us, and I was now a 5-star recruit. I had done it. I had already achieved one of my goals. However, we still had a state title I wanted to win. The following week, we completely dominated Twinsburg High School. I recorded a career-high 7 total touchdowns, and by the end of the regular season, I had 10 scholarship offers. But now, it was time for the playoffs. Our first round game was against Zanesville High, and they scored first with a field goal, but I drove us down in response and got a 7 right after. Unfortunately, on the next drive, I made this terrible read, and we gave the ball right back to Zanesville. With 2 minutes left in the second, we found ourselves down 3, but 30 seconds later, we ended up finding ourselves in the back of the end zone. However, our lead did not last, and with less than 2 minutes left in the third quarter, I tried to play hero ball, and it backfired. They picked me off for the second time that night, so we were down 10 going into the fourth quarter, and on this decisive 4th and 1, I picked it up, and then I kept going, and that's a touchdown! We were right back in the game. But our defense couldn't get a stop, and with 2.5 minutes left, Coach gave me the best play in the game, and we executed perfectly with this 70-yard play. A few plays later, I ended up getting into the end zone, and at this point, it was on our defense to get to stop, and they were getting run all over until they got us a fumble. We had gotten the ball back. Come on, make a good read here. Uh-oh, and I got sacked. At this point, we needed a big gain, so I threw a comeback route to Craig, and on 3rd and 6, playoffs on the line, I stepped up, and I delivered this dot. We finally got our lead back. On 4th and 18, it looked like we had done enough to get the win, and we had. That win made me the 14th best player in the country, but it was time for our quarterfinals matchup against Wapa, Kineta. Early in the game, on 3rd and 16, I ran around and I threw it up to Craig Ostrander, who of course came down with it. Later on the same drive, I found him again and I was absolutely feeding him. We ended up capping the drive off with a play that I don't even have any words for, just pure amazement. And the next drive, I went down and I scored again. And surprise, surprise, I did it again right after that. Midway through the 3rd, we were up 31-3, and I ended up running for my 5th total touchdown of the game. And in the end, we absolutely blew them out for a 66-9 quarterfinal playoff win. That game ended up getting us a scholarship offer from Washington, and I now had another Pac-12 school to choose from. The Ohio State semifinals were against Sylvania High, who were somehow 7-0 despite us beating them in week 2 after they had already lost a game. So we went out and made sure they lost for good this time. We were going to be up 35-7 going into the second half after I threw this touchdown, and that was enough to get us a 42-7 win and send us to the state championship. After scoring 6 touchdowns, I was ready for the big game. Our opponent was set. We were taking on 6-1 Coshocton Senior High. The state championship was in Ohio Stadium, and on the first play of the game, I picked up an easy first down. On that same drive, I became prime Johnny Manziel, and I got us close to the end zone. That run ended up putting us in a position to score our first touchdown on this absolutely terrible read, but it did work. On the next drive, I marched us down the field, and I capped it off with this dot. With 2.5 minutes left in the second half, I rolled out, and I threw a deep ball, which gave us a 28-point lead. And yes, you were looking at the final score correctly, but I had done it. We had won a state title behind my 8 touchdowns, and I had accomplished another one of my goals by winning a state championship. Now, it was time for signing day, and although Notre Dame and Oklahoma were hard to turn down, I had 4 offers from Pac-12 schools to choose from. Washington, Arizona, Oregon State, and Arizona State were my 4 choices, and it was easy to narrow it down to 2 because Washington and Arizona State were both offering me a second string spot immediately, and with Washington running a multiple offense, I decided that's where I'd be furthering my education and playing career. Unfortunately, number 8 wasn't available, so I went with number 13, and I was off to college. And honestly, I didn't even know where to start. There were so many different things on the screen. There was coach trust, there was practice, and there were a bunch of upgrades, but we're going to jump into all of that in the next episode. So I will see you all next week when we officially begin my collegiate career.